It's finally starting to look like Christmas here at our house. I was able to get all of our decorations up and our tree put up and decorated. Thank you for stopping by Lavender and Lace. This is Alicia, and I hope you enjoy these projects in today's video. I have several of these out in my house now, and I can't wait to show them to you. So let's get started. For this first project, I used a mini charcuterie board that I picked up at Hobby Lobby for 50% off, and I made another one of these in the fall that I paired with one of my crocheted hanging baskets, and I put it with my china cabinet in my dining room, and it looks really cute. This project is very simple to make. I just used some washi tape to tape off the bottom portion of my little charcuterie board, and I mixed up some Waverly chalk paint in crimson and just a little bit of black to tone down that red color and give me this rusty red that I really like this year for Christmas. So I just painted the bottom, the sides, and the back with one good coat, and I just set that aside to dry. After my paint had dried, I just removed my washi tape, and I took a sanding block that I got from the Dollar Tree and just went around the edges and also just the bottom of the little board and got some good distressing there, which you know I love so far. And I just like adding this antique rustic look to all of my pieces. It just gives that a vintage country feel, in my opinion. Now for the fun part, getting to add all of the embellishments to your piece. I had some of this white berry garland that I got from the Dollar Tree, I believe, and I just made a small little wreath by wrapping it around my two fingers, and I hot glued that to the top of my board. And on camera I just show that I glued the top part down. I did go back and glue the bottom as well, just to make sure that was really secured there and that it wouldn't fall off. Then I had some of this really glittery pick from Walmart, and I was just trying to see if this would look well with the berry garland. It's not very Christmassy colors, but they're kind of muted colors, and I really did like the way that looked. I just took two of these bigger pieces and trimmed them down just a little bit because they were a little too big for my liking, and it does leave a lot of glitter, and glitter is my nemesis. It seems to multiply and just get everywhere, and it stays around until the 4th of July, I think. But anyway, I like to add a little bit of glitter to things every now and then. It just gives a little bit of sparkle to your piece. So I just glued those down and tried to remove as much glitter as I could from the top of my board, and I started adding these wood letter tiles, and I picked up this pack from the dollar store, and I tried to center these as best as I could on my board. Just get those lined up, and I started with the E in the center and just worked my way out with my bottom word, and then my top word I just tried to line up the A and the R to start with. Just try to center it as best as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's your creation, and a little imperfections here and there I think give your things character. this little mini wooden truck that I got in a pack of 54 pieces from Hobby Lobby. This pack has Santa Claus, stockings, candy canes, gingerbread men, snowmen, all the Christmas things, and I will probably never get through all of these or use all of them with my projects, but they were cute, so I had to grab them. But I just took some Sharpies and colored in the tree and the body of the truck. And I wasn't too sure about this red color, if it would clash with the rusty red on the board, but I think it turns out really cute in the end. You'll just have to let me know what you think, if you think I should have went with a different color for the truck. And I did use a couple of alcohol markers as well to do the rims and tires on wheels. And I just took some hot glue and glued down my truck to the bottom part of the board. And to finish off this project, I just took a small piece of jute twine and tied a shoelace bow and glued that to the top of the wreath. This project couldn't get any easier. I actually was cooking supper at the same time that I was working on these. I found these plates at the Dollar Tree, and they are glass plates, not their typical plastic ones. And I started out by cleaning the surface of both plates really well, and I just used a combination of vinegar and water just so my surface would be free of any lint or dust, and just to get them ready for the transfers that I'm going to be putting on these plates. I know a lot of times you can find rub-on transfers at the Dollar Tree, but I wasn't able to find any at my local stores this year for Christmas. So I found this pack on Amazon, and I will see if I can find the link and put that in the description box. I believe this one was called Vintage Christmas Newsletter. This one has lots of vibrant colors and some beautiful pieces to pick from. And I just wanted to show you guys all of the different choices that you have in this pack. It comes with several different sheets, but one thing I would say about this pack, it does have quite a strong odor to it, so just be aware of that before you make this purchase. Once you pick the designs that you want to use on your plates, you just cut out around each design, just trying to get as close as you can to the outline there. And I picked a couple of these pieces that I really enjoy. Cardinals have a special meaning for me all year long, not just at Christmas, and this was just a beautiful one. Then you just want to center your design on your plate, and these transfers stick really well. I didn't have any issues with this one trying to get it to transfer to the plate, and I just used a jumbo popsicle stick to rub over the top of my design, and the transfer sheet itself stuck incredibly well to this design, so it did give me a little trouble wanting to pull that up there. It was so super sticky. And I just did that same process for my second plate, and that one gave me a little bit more trouble than the first one. It wanted to bubble up just a little bit more, so I'm not sure exactly what happened with that one. But I just tried to rub over it extra well with my popsicle stick, and then once I moved the transfer sheet, I went over it again with my thumb and my index finger just to try to get out some more of those bubbles. But even with that, just a little bit of a setback, these still turned out really well, and they look great in my dining room beside my china cabinet. I started this project by working on the shadow box, and this particular box I believe I found at Michael's back in the summer. It was in their 4th of July selection, and I think I got it for 90% off, so it was maybe $1 or $2 at the most. And the first thing I did, I started by just painting the inside edges with some of the Waverly chalk paint in white, just so that it would match the outside edges of my box. And I wasn't super concerned about getting total coverage in the sides. I just wanted it to look a little rustic. And the same thing for just the outer edge. I just went across that with just a light coat of my chalk paint. I wanted some of the brown of the box to show through, just to give me that rustic look that I like really well for all of my decor pieces. And once you finish all of your painting around the inside and the outer edges, just set your box aside to dry so you can start on the next step of this project. This wooden nativity set came from the Dollar Tree, and I wanted my pieces to sit flush in my shadow box, so I just took my box cutter and trimmed off those wooden tabs that each piece had on the bottom, and I took my emery board and just filed off those rough edges to get my pieces smooth. Next, I just painted each of my nativity pieces with my Waverly chalk paint in ink, and this only took one coat for each piece, and I only painted the front of these, except for Joseph, because I realized that I had painted him facing the same direction as Mary, so I did have to go back in and paint the other side, and then I just put each of these aside to dry. I wanted to add a neutral background to my shadow box. I wanted the nativity to be the focal point, and I found this white birch tree sheet out of this scrapbook paper pack that I had from Michael's, and I believe I found this one for 50% off. And I just traced the outside edge of my shadow box to give me the approximate size that I needed to fit on the inside, and I just cut that out. And then I do just take the piece of paper and lay it over the top of my box and kind of press down firmly along each edge, and that gave me just a little template to go by to cut off some of this extra paper that I had, because I knew that wouldn't fit on the inside of my box. And that seemed to work very well for me. I hope you guys can see that on camera, but it just gave me some lines to follow to trim up my piece of paper so I could get that glued down inside my box. And I just took an Elmer's glue stick and put that down in the box and just secured my paper using that glue. Once I got my paper secured and in place, I did have to go back in with just a little bit of the chalk paint and kind of fill in some of the gaps that were left in the corners between the box and the paper. I grabbed some of these small wooden blocks that I had on hand, and I did go ahead and paint one of those with chalk paint and ink, and I wanted to use these to glue to the back of each of my nativity pieces so I would have a little bit more surface area to glue down to my box. And the black one I wanted to use for the manger. I didn't want any of that natural wood showing through the gap at the bottom of that piece. Once everything was painted and I had my wooden blocks glued to my pieces, I started to assemble my shadow box. So the first piece that I put down was the background piece for the stable, and I just took some hot glue and centered that in the back. And then I just took all of the remaining figures and kind of set them up before gluing them down to see what placement I liked the best. I just secured each of these pieces with a little bit of hot glue on the bottom of those small wooden blocks. So I wanted to add a little bit of color and texture to my shadow box, and I had some of this wired ribbon that I picked up from the dollar store, and I thought it would make the perfect banner to put at the top of my box. And I was being a lazy crafter, I guess you would say, and I wanted to use my paint pens to put some wording on this banner, and it didn't work at all. You'll see here on the video what happened when I tried to write on this ribbon with this paint pen. It just completely soaked through the ribbon and did not work whatsoever. So I had to have plan B. I used my Cricut Joy to cut out this phrase with some glitter iron-on vinyl, and I just used my little Cricut mini press to iron that onto my ribbon. I did have a couple of spots that didn't want to stick very well the first time, so I just went back over those as needed and just removed the transfer sheet. And I do like to go over my HTV just very quickly after that transfer sheet is removed, just to make sure everything is down well on the corners, and then go over the back side, and that just really helps to make sure that your HTV is secured well to your piece. And to attach my banner, I just took some hot glue in the corners of the top of the box and just glued that down, and then I glued the back pieces onto the back side of the box. To finish up my shadow box, I just tied a piece of jute and a shoelace bow, just glued that in the corner. And I knew I wanted this to light up, so I had some fairy lights that I used, and I just put those behind each of the figures. I didn't want them to come up above Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus. I just wanted the light to be coming from behind them, and I just put those down in behind each of the figurines, and these fairy lights worked really well to get positioned into place. and then I just glued the battery pack on the back of the box. So I started this project thinking, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. I've done one of these before. This is going to be super easy. No issues, no mishaps, none of that. Well, that's not exactly what happened with this project, as you guys will see throughout the rest of this video. I just took one of these canvases that I had done a couple of years ago that I put on my mantle, and I wanted to do a reverse canvas. So I just started by removing all of the staples from the outside of my canvas, and as I was doing that, some of these were really hard to get out of there. They were like almost embedded into the wood, and I did poke a hole in my canvas. So I was like, well, that's no big deal. I can just cover that with my vinyl that I want to put on here. But that was just the beginning of the mishaps with this project, as you guys will see. So then I just took some of the Waverly Antique Wax and stained all of the outside edges of my frame. And I just put a liberal amount on there and just went back over this antique wax with a paper towel to remove the excess. And I just let that dry really well while I was working on the rest of this project. And I used my Cricut Maker to cut out this HTV. And since it was such a bigger piece, I did have to cut up my vinyl into smaller sections so I could place them on the canvas where I wanted them. So I just cut each of those out and just weeded out each section and got that ready to iron on to my canvas. I positioned each of the sections of my vinyl onto my canvas, and I tried to center those as best as I could, and just adjusted them and made sure I liked the placement where everything was. And I also tried to make sure that none of the carrier sheets were overlapping, or none of it was under the vinyl, and that wouldn't prohibit the vinyl from being ironed onto the canvas well. So just be sure that you keep an eye on that when you're doing any projects with HTV. And here's where things start to go south once again with this project. I got in a hurry and I decided I didn't need to use one of these protective coverings as I was ironing on my vinyl. Maybe you can see the S there in is. The heat press was too hot and it melted that vinyl and messed that up, but I thought I could fix that too. I could have fixed the S and I could have fixed the hole, but you can't fix your mistakes when you don't measure correctly to start with, so it didn't fit. Okay, so after my initial disgust and annoyance at myself for not measuring correctly in the first place from the inside edges of the frame, I just repeated my steps that I had already done. I had to cut out my vinyl again and weed that out, get it placed on my canvas, and iron that on. And this time I was sure to use the protective covering there, which is a pillowcase, and I used that before I started the iron-on process. And I was ready to secure the canvas to the frame. So I just centered that as best as I could and just took some staples and went around the outside edges of my frame, kind of stretching tightly from one side to the other. And I will say I do like this glitter HTV that I wound up using the second time around better than the original vinyl that I used, so I guess it wasn't a complete waste of my time maybe. And then I just trimmed the excess canvas away from the frame, and this project was done. That wraps up this round of Christmas DIYs. I hope you guys found some inspiration for your Christmas crafting in these projects, and I hope you subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. I still have lots of Christmas crafting ideas, and I don't want you guys to miss out on any of those. We'll see you again in the next one.